In this video, we'll be discussing about the nerve supply of the scalp here. We'll draw the diagram and discuss the nerve supply here. For that, we'll divide the scalp into two halves, and each side of the scalp and the temple is supplied in total by 10 nerves. So in total, on each side, it is supplied by 10 nerves. So for the convenience, we'll divide the nerves into the anterior quadrant and the nerves in the posterior quadrant. So how do you divide the quadrants? So consider an imaginary line which is extending from the auricle to the vertex here. So those nerves which are present in front of this line are belonging to the anterior quadrant, and those nerves which are present behind this line belong to the posterior quadrant. So we'll first discuss the nerves in the anterior quadrant. So remember that on each side we have 4 sensory nerves in the anterior quadrant and 1 motor nerve in the anterior quadrant. So in the anterior quadrant, on each side you have 4 sensory nerves and 1 motor nerve. So which are the sensory nerve which are from the anterior aspect? So anterior aspect, we will start here. So most medially you have the supratrochlear nerve here. So this is the supratrochlear nerve, and lateral to that you have the supraorbital nerve. So these two are this is the supratrochlear nerve, and this one is the supraorbital nerve. So we know that the supraorbital and supratrochlear are actually branches of the frontal nerve, which is actually a branch of ophthalmic nerve. So now we'll go into little posteriorly. So on the temporal region, you have the zygomatico-temporal nerve here. The zygomatico-temporal region, the temporal region here. So that is the zygomatico-temporal nerve. So remember that the zygomatico-temporal nerve is actually a branch of the zygomatic nerve, which is zygomatic nerve of the maxillary nerve. So zygomatico-temporal nerve is a branch of the zygomatic branch of the maxillary nerve. So now you have another nerve here, which is the auricular-temporal nerve, which is present in near the auricle here. So this is the auricular-temporal nerve here. So that is the auricular-temporal nerve. So auricular-temporal nerve is a branch of mandibular nerve. So these are the 4 sensory nerves on this anterior quadrant on one side. Now you have one motor nerve here on the anterior quadrant, that is the temporal branch of the facial nerve. So this is the temporal branch of the facial nerve, which is the only motor nerve here in the anterior quadrant. So temporal branch of facial nerve. So being a motor nerve, it is supplying the frontal belly of occipitofrontalis muscle. So we have learned about the nerves in the anterior quadrant, which are they? The supratrochlear, supraorbital, which are actually branches of frontal nerve, which is a branch of ophthalmic nerve. Now you have a branch of maxillary nerve, that is the zygomatico-temporal, which is a branch of zygomatic branch of maxillary nerve. Now you have a branch of mandibular nerve, that is the auricular-temporal nerve. Now you have one motor nerve, which is a temporal branch of the facial nerve supplying the frontal belly of occipitofrontalis muscle. Now we will move into the nerves on the posterior quadrant here. So we will start from the posterior most aspect here. So now on the posterior most aspect near the occipital region, we have a third occipital nerve here. So this is supplying the skin over the external occipital protuberance. This is actually a branch of dorsal ramus of C3. Branch of dorsal ramus of C3. This is known as third occipital nerve. So this is a branch of dorsal ramus of C3. So it is supplying the skin over the external occipital protuberance. So this is the posterior most one. And next one you see here is the greater occipital nerve. So it runs forwards and it supplies the skin over the vertex also. So this is known as the greater occipital nerve. So this is a branch of dorsal ramus of C2. So the one peculiarity of this nerve is that it is the thickest cutaneous nerve in the body and it supplies the skin as far as the vertex. So it is the thickest cutaneous nerve in the body. Now we'll go like here from here. You can see that posterior to the auricle we have one nerve here, that is the lesser occipital nerve here. So lesser occipital nerve. So the root value is C2. Now, just posterior to the auricle, which is very close to the auricle, is the greater auricular nerve here. So this is the greater auricular nerve with the root value C2, C3. So greater auricular nerve. So its root value is C2 and C3. So these are the four sensory nerves in the posterior posterior quadrant. So in posterior quadrant also you have got four sensory nerves and one motor nerve. So and which is the only one motor nerve which is present here, that is the posterior auricular nerve. So one which is drawn in yellow color is the posterior auricular nerve. So this is the posterior auricular nerve. So this posterior auricular nerve is actually a branch of facial nerve. So branch of facial nerve. So being a motor nerve, it is supplying the occipital belly of the occipitofrontalis. So then we know that the temporal branch of the facial nerve is supplying the frontal belly of occipitofrontalis, but the posterior auricular nerve is supplying the occipital belly of the occipitofrontalis muscle. So we have discussed about the nerve supply in the anterior and posterior quadrant. So on each side in total you have 10 nerves, out of which 8 are sensory and 2 are motor. So if you separately consider the anterior quadrant and posterior quadrant, on anterior quadrant you have 4 sensory nerves and 1 motor nerve. And the posterior quadrant you have 4 sensory nerves and 1 motor nerve. So that is all about the nerve supply of the scalp. Thank you for watching this video. To see more videos from our channel, please subscribe the channel. Thank you.